A young girl exclaimed, "I recognize you. You're the man in the photo from my dad's wallet." Her voice startled a wealthy man just as the first rays of sunlight slipped through the silk curtains of his bedroom. Ethan Miller awoke to another day. Like every Sunday morning, he prepared for his daily run through the lush, tree-lined streets of his exclusive neighborhood. At 46, Ethan had reached the pinnacle of success, owning a top national tech firm and amassing a multi-million-dollar fortune. Yet, as he tightened the laces of his cutting-edge running shoes, he was gripped by an unsettling emptiness. A void his immense wealth couldn't fill. His sprawling mansion, with its 20 rooms and Olympic-sized pool, felt less like a home and more like a vast, hollow echo chamber. As he stepped out for his jog, the rhythmic pounding of his feet often helped drown out the nagging echoes of his thoughts. At this early hour, the streets were quiet, save for a few landscapers meticulously tending the perfectly manicured lawns of neighboring estates. Ethan jogged aimlessly, letting his path wind through familiar and unfamiliar streets alike. His mind flitted between memories of his past and worries about his present. Despite possessing everything money could buy, a profound loneliness weighed heavily on him. He was so lost in his thoughts that he almost didn't hear the child's voice shouting, "I recognize you. You're the man in the photo from my dad's wallet." His heart raced, partly from running and partly from the unexpected interruption. Coming to a stop, he scanned the area and spotted her, a little girl, maybe 7 years old, with chestnut pigtails and wide, curious eyes. Her modest clothing hinted at a simpler life, but her gaze was bright and full of curiosity. Intrigued and slightly unsettled, Ethan bent down to meet her eye level. "What's your name, little one?" he asked, his voice gentle and his smile warm. "Olivia," she answered, her grin mirroring his. "My dad has your picture in his wallet. He showed it to me once." A chill of unease ran down Ethan's spine. Who was this girl's father, and why would he have Ethan's photo? His mind raced, scrambling for a logical explanation. "Could you tell me what your dad looks like, Olivia?" "Where is he now?" Ethan asked, carefully masking his curiosity with a calm demeanor. "He's at home. We can go there right now if you want," Olivia said confidently, taking Ethan's hand. For a moment, Ethan froze. It was a quiet Sunday morning, a time for most to relax. Following a child he had never met before seemed impulsive, maybe even reckless. As they walked, the upscale neighborhood of grand estates gave way to modest houses and eventually to a series of aging apartment complexes. Olivia led the way with purpose, occasionally greeting neighbors along the path. Finally, they stopped in front of a row of simple, well-kept homes. Olivia approached a weathered door and knocked firmly. Ethan's heart pounded as he waited, unsure of what to expect. The door creaked open, revealing a lean man with tired eyes and stubble lining his cheeks. The sight made Ethan catch his breath. He knew those eyes, that jawline, the weary slope of the shoulders. It seemed impossible, but there he was. "It's really you," Ethan breathed, a whirlwind of surprise, guilt, and emotion overtaking him. Tears welled up in the man's eyes as he hesitated before stepping forward. "Yes, it's me." His voice wavered. "It's David." Olivia glanced between the two men, sensing the tension. "Dad, you know him, don't you? He's the guy in the picture." "Yes, Olivia," David managed to say, his voice thick with emotion. "He's my brother." Olivia looked back and forth between them, her young face trying to understand the weight of their silence. "Olivia, why don't you go play for a bit while your dad and I talk?" David suggested, his voice steady despite his nerves. She nodded and skipped off into the house, leaving the two men alone. The brothers stood there, enveloped by a silence that spoke volumes. Nearly a decade had passed since they had last seen each other, a gap filled with missed moments and unspoken words. "Please, come in," David finally said, breaking the stillness as he opened the door wider. As Ethan stepped into the modest home, a wave of nostalgia and conflicting emotions hit him. This unexpected reunion with David felt like the beginning of a new chapter. One filled with the promise of healing old wounds and navigating shared challenges, together. The living room was modest yet welcoming, decorated with tidy but aged furniture. Ethan's attention was drawn to a collection of family photos on the wall. One picture, in particular, showed David holding baby Olivia in his arms. The image stirred a pang of regret in Ethan for all the important moments in his brother's life he had missed. "Take a seat," David offered, gesturing to the couch. "Can I get you something? Maybe some coffee?" "Coffee would be great, thank you," Ethan replied, settling into the couch and feeling slightly out of place. As David prepared the drinks, Ethan quietly observed the changes in his brother. Gone was the vibrant, carefree young man he once knew. In his place was someone visibly worn down by life and its responsibilities. Returning with 2 steaming mugs of coffee, David sat across from Ethan. They exchanged hesitant glances, the air heavy with unspoken tension. "You have a daughter," Ethan finally said, breaking the awkward silence. David smiled faintly, his tired face momentarily lighting up. "Yes, that's Olivia. She's 7 now. Honestly, she's the greatest joy of my life." "She looks like you," Ethan noted. "She has your eyes." "And her personality?" "Definitely from her mom," David added, though his smile faltered slightly. "Her mom?" Ethan's voice trailed off, quiet and tentative as he feared the response. "She passed away 3 years ago," David said softly, his tone subdued. "Car accident." Ethan felt as if the wind had been knocked out of him. His brother had endured so much, and he hadn't known a thing. "I'm so sorry, David. I had no idea." "How could you?" David replied, his tone tinged with frustration. "It's been years since we last talked." A heavy silence fell between them, weighted with years of estrangement and unspoken resentment. "How are you holding up?" Ethan ventured, realizing how inadequate the question sounded even as he asked it. David gave a dry chuckle. "There have been better days, but Olivia and I managed somehow." Ethan nodded, at a loss for words. His eyes wandered around the humble living room, noting its quiet dignity, a stark contrast to his own luxurious yet soulless house. "And you?" David asked. "I've heard you've done well for yourself." Ethan shifted uncomfortably. "Yeah, things are going well. I'm genuinely happy for you," David said with surprising sincerity. "David, Ethan started, unsure whether to apologize, offer help, or justify the years of silence. Before he could decide, Olivia burst into the room, clutching a drawing. "Look what I made," she exclaimed, holding it up for them to see. She proudly held up a colorful sketch of 3 figures. A man, a little girl, and another taller man. "That's wonderful," David praised, pulling his daughter into a hug. "Who are they?" "It's us," Olivia exclaimed enthusiastically. "You, me, and Uncle Ethan?" The brothers exchanged surprised glances, both taken aback by how quickly Olivia had embraced the situation. "Olivia, sweetheart," David said gently. "Uncle Ethan might have to leave soon. He has a lot of things to take care of." Ethan felt a chill run through him. While his life was packed with meetings, calls, and pressing decisions, in that moment, those obligations seemed far less urgent. "Actually," Ethan said, surprising even himself, "how about we all grab breakfast together? There's a place nearby that's famous for its pancakes." Olivia's excitement was unmistakable. "Yes, please, Daddy. Can we go?" David looked at his brother, his expression a mix of surprise and hesitation. "I don't want to intrude," David said uncertainly. "It's not intruding," Ethan reassured him. "I'd really like to spend some time with my niece, and catch up with you." After a tense pause, David gave a slow nod. "All right. Just give us a few minutes to get ready." While David and Olivia prepared to leave, Ethan lingered in the living room, his gaze drifting across the photos lining the walls. They captured key moments in his brother's life: graduation, the wedding, Olivia's birth, milestones Ethan had missed. A sense of resolve stirred within him. He couldn't change the past, but he could still be part of their future. When David and Olivia were ready, they found Ethan waiting with a genuine smile. As they stepped outside, Olivia chattered animatedly between the two brothers, and for the first time in a long while, Ethan felt a flicker of hope. That breakfast marked the start of a new chapter, an opportunity for reconciliation and rebuilding. It was a chance for the Miller brothers to face their shared past, heal old wounds, and maybe carve a new path forward together. The cafe Ethan picked was a cozy family spot with wooden tables and the irresistible scent of fresh coffee. Olivia looked around with curiosity, while David seemed slightly out of place in the unfamiliar setting. Sitting at a window table with plates of hot pancakes in front of them, the brothers initially exchanged only polite small talk, their conversation punctuated by Olivia's lively remarks. "So, Olivia," Ethan finally said, hoping to ease the tension, "what do you like to do for fun?" "I love drawing," she replied with enthusiasm. "And I play soccer too. Daddy taught me." Surprised, Ethan turned to David. "You still play soccer?" David shrugged casually. "Sometimes. It's something Olivia and I like to do on weekends." "I remember when we used to play in the yard," Ethan said with a warm smile. "You were always better than me." "I still am," David joked, lightening the mood for a moment. Olivia glanced between them curiously. Dad, why have you never told me about Uncle Ethan before? Her innocent question landed like a bombshell at the breakfast table. David visibly tensed, and Ethan focused his eyes on his plate. It's complicated, sweetheart, David finally replied. Sometimes adults make mistakes and drift apart. But now we're all here together, Ethan chimed in, trying to ease the tension. Looking between the two men, Olivia beamed. I'd really like it if we all got to know each other better. David held Ethan's gaze for a long moment before nodding slowly. Maybe it's worth a shot. The atmosphere grew lighter as Olivia eagerly shared stories about her school and friends. Ethan found himself captivated by her vibrant spirit. When breakfast ended, Ethan insisted on paying the bill. Despite David's protests, they left the restaurant feeling a mix of hope and uncertainty about what lay ahead. How about a walk in the park? Ethan suggested. It's just around the corner. Olivia lit up with excitement, and seeing this, David agreed. As Olivia darted ahead, eager to explore the trails, Ethan and David walked side by side in a companionable silence. After a while, Ethan gathered the courage to speak. David, he began hesitantly. I know it's been years, and things were strained the last time we saw each other. I just want you to know how sorry I am for not being there when you needed me most. Especially after your wife passed away. David's eyes stayed fixed on the path ahead before he finally responded. It wasn't all on you, Ethan. I had my own issues. My gambling, it destroyed a lot. Even so, I should have been there. You're my brother. They stopped near a bench, watching Olivia interact with other kids. How did you get through it? Ethan asked quietly. With the gambling? It wasn't easy. David's voice carried both weariness and resolve. There were moments I hit rock bottom, but everything changed when Mary got pregnant. I joined a support group, sought professional help, and with Olivia's birth, I was determined never to go back to my old ways. Ethan listened, feeling a mixture of admiration and regret. You did it on your own. I should have been there for you. You weren't completely alone, David admitted. Mary's parents were a huge help, especially after the accident. They stepped up when I couldn't. That's good to hear, Ethan replied earnestly. David, I know I'm asking a lot after everything, but I really want to be a part of your lives again, yours and Olivia's. Can we try to rebuild what we had? David was quiet for a moment, watching his daughter happily swing. It won't be easy, Ethan. Too much has happened, and we've both changed. I get it, Ethan said, nodding. But I'm ready to do whatever it takes. Why now? David asked, turning to look at him. Reflecting for a moment, Ethan finally said, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it's seeing Olivia or realizing that no amount of success or money can fill the void of being alone. David seemed to understand, nodding slightly. I can't make any promises, he said. But for Olivia's sake, if not ours, we can try. Emotion surged within Ethan. Thank you, David. I won't let you down this time. At that moment, Olivia ran back to them, bubbling with excitement. Dad, Uncle Ethan, did you see how high I went? We saw, sweetheart, David said, smiling as he hugged her. You were soaring. Uncle Ethan, Olivia turned to him eagerly. Will you come back again? With a subtle nod from David, Ethan replied. I'd love to, Olivia. Let's plan it soon. Yay, Olivia exclaimed. Next time, can we come to your house? You have a pool, and I want to swim. As they walked back to David's home, Ethan felt something shift within himself. The emptiness he had carried for years was slowly being replaced by the warmth of a family he had once neglected. When they said their goodbyes, Ethan hugged Olivia and then David, awkwardly, but with a silent promise embedded in the gesture. I'll call you this week, Ethan said. We'll make that pool visit happen, David replied. We'd like that. As Ethan walked away, he turned back to wave, watching Olivia wave enthusiastically in return. For the first time in years, Ethan felt like he was leaving behind the lonely man he had become. The road to mending relationships and finding redemption lay ahead. It wouldn't be easy, but it was filled with promise. Returning to his spacious home, Ethan saw the empty rooms in a new light. They no longer symbolized his achievements but instead felt like spaces waiting to be filled with laughter and shared moments. He walked into his office and pulled out an old photo album tucked away at the back of a drawer. The pictures of his childhood with David transported him to a time when they were inseparable. Sunny summer days in their parents' garden, petty arguments that always ended in laughter, and promises to always have each other's backs. He wondered when they had drifted apart, allowing wealth and success to overshadow their family bond. With a determined snap of the album shut, Ethan resolved that while he couldn't rewrite the past, he could forge a better future with his brother and niece. Pausing for a moment, he dialed a number he hadn't used in years. "Mom, it's me, Ethan." "Yes, I'm doing fine. Listen, there's something important I want to talk about." The following days were a whirlwind of emotions and preparations for Ethan. After a heartfelt conversation with his mother, he focused on making his home as welcoming as possible for David and Olivia's upcoming visit. By Friday evening, as he anxiously awaited their arrival, Ethan ensured his mansion was spotless and stocked with treats he thought Olivia might enjoy. When the taxi pulled up to his grand entrance, Ethan's heart raced. Olivia was the first to step out, her eyes widening in amazement. "Wow," she exclaimed. "It's like a castle?" David followed her, looking slightly out of place in his casual clothes but neatly dressed for the occasion. "Welcome," Ethan greeted them, managing to keep his tone steady despite his nerves. "I'm glad you could make it." "Thanks for inviting us," David replied, his voice polite but with a hint of tension. Olivia, unfazed by the adult's unease, bubbled with excitement. "Uncle Ethan, where's the pool? Can we swim right now?" Ethan laughed, grateful for her enthusiasm. "Of course, Olivia, but how about a quick tour of the house first?" As they walked through the mansion, Olivia was mesmerized by everything, especially the home theater and the spacious kitchen. "I've never seen a house this big," David commented quietly when they reached Ethan's office. "Sometimes it feels too big," Ethan admitted. "Especially when you're here alone." A brief, awkward silence hung between them, broken only by Olivia's eager voice. "The pool, Uncle Ethan? Can we go now?" "Of course," Ethan replied with a smile. "Go get changed, and I'll show you where the changing rooms are." While David and Olivia got ready, Ethan quickly took the chance to call his assistant and reschedule an important meeting. Work could wait. Returning to the pool area, Ethan was greeted by a heartwarming sight, Olivia splashing joyfully in the water while David stood by, smiling genuinely. "Come on, Uncle Ethan," Olivia shouted excitedly. "The water's perfect." Without hesitation, Ethan tossed aside his shirt and dove into the pool, fully immersing himself in the playful energy of his niece. A moment later, David joined them, and it felt as if the years of distance between them had simply melted away. They swam and splashed around until the sky turned shades of gold and pink as the sun set. Climbing out, they wrapped themselves in soft, fluffy towels. "Feeling hungry?" Ethan asked, glancing at them. "Can we grill in the backyard?" Olivia exclaimed. "Oh yes, please, can I help?" "Of course," Ethan replied with a grin. "I could use an extra set of hands. I'm no master chef." As Ethan worked the grill, he relished the ease of their conversation. Olivia eagerly shared stories about school and her friends, with David occasionally chiming in. For Ethan, it was a rare and precious moment he hadn't experienced in years. They gathered around the patio table under the stars, surrounded by the delicious aroma of grilled food, feeling an unexpected sense of home. "This is really nice," David said quietly as Olivia savored her burger. "Thanks, Ethan." "No need to thank me," Ethan responded warmly. "I've missed this, being with family." For a moment, David's face clouded over before he nodded. "Yeah, me too." The night air filled with a comfortable silence, broken only by the occasional sounds of the evening and Olivia's enthusiastic praise of the food. "David," Ethan began, summoning the courage to speak his mind. "I know this might feel a bit sudden, and we have a lot to work on, but I want to be a real part of your lives, not just the occasional visit, but truly involved, for both of you." David looked at Ethan for a long moment, as if searching for the truth in his words. "Are you sure about this? Our lives are so different from yours, Ethan. I don't want you to feel like this is something you have to do." "I don't feel obligated," Ethan assured him quickly. "Honestly, this is the first time in years I've felt whole." Olivia, who had been listening intently, chimed in with excitement. "Does this mean we can visit more often, Dad? I can swim again." David glanced from his daughter to his brother, his expression softening. His expression softened into a hesitant smile. "Looks like it, sweetheart, if Uncle Ethan doesn't mind." "I'm more than okay with it," Ethan replied, his voice full of emotion. "In fact, I was hoping you both might stay for the weekend. There's plenty of room here, and we could spend more time figuring out what we'd like to do together." Olivia's eyes lit up with excitement, and after a brief pause, David nodded. "All right, we'll stay." That evening, as Ethan got ready for bed, he could hear the laughter of David and Olivia echoing from their rooms, filling the once quiet halls of his mansion with life. For the first time in years, he realized he no longer felt alone. His house, once just a symbol of success, had transformed into a true home, now brimming with the warmth of family. As Ethan settled into bed, he silently vowed to take things one step at a time. The road to full reconciliation might be long, but he was ready to walk it. With the distant sound of his family's laughter lingering in the background, Ethan drifted off to sleep, his mind alive with hopeful dreams for the future. The weekend was filled with joyful moments. They visited the local zoo, watched movies in Ethan's private theater, and even held an impromptu soccer match in the spacious backyard. To Ethan's surprise, these simple joys brought more satisfaction than any lavish party or business event he had ever attended. When Sunday arrived and it was time for David and Olivia to leave, Ethan couldn't hide the tinge of melancholy at the thought of his house returning to its quiet state. "This was an amazing weekend," he remarked, trying to sound casual. "I hope we can do it again soon." David nodded, his smile genuine. "It really was." "Thanks, Ethan." Olivia, busy packing up her drawings, glanced up with hopeful eyes. "Can we come back next weekend, Uncle Ethan?" Ethan chuckled softly. "I'd love that, Olivia. But it depends on your dad." Both turned expectantly toward David, who paused before replying. "We probably can't make it every weekend," he said thoughtfully. "But maybe once a month could work." Ethan's face brightened at the suggestion. "That would be perfect, or maybe I could visit you sometime. I'd love to see what your everyday life is like." David was slightly taken aback by the suggestion but eventually nodded slowly. "Yeah, that could be nice. There's so much happiness here." Olivia hugged Ethan tightly in response. "Thank you, Uncle Ethan. This was so much fun." Turning to his brother, Ethan hesitated briefly before they embraced. This time, the hug felt less awkward and more genuine. "Take care of yourself, David," Ethan said. "And remember, you can call me anytime, for anything." David's eyes held a glimmer of gratitude. "I will." "Thank you, brother." As the taxi drove away, Ethan stood watching, a mix of sadness and anticipation filling his chest. The mansion might return to its quiet state, but it was now brimming with potential and a future he was eager to explore. In the weeks that followed, Ethan adjusted his work commitments to carve out more free time. He even started leaving the office earlier to savor moments outside of work. One weekday, with excitement brewing inside, Ethan drove to David's neighborhood after confirming his visit. When he parked near the modest home, his heart raced with both nerves and joy. Olivia was the first to greet him, running into his arms with uncontained happiness. "Uncle Ethan, you came?" she exclaimed. He lifted her up, their laughter mingling. "Of course I came, I promised, didn't I?" David appeared in the doorway, his smile tired but warm. "Hi, Ethan, welcome." Inside, Ethan took in the cozy living room decorated with family photos and Olivia's drawings. The modest kitchen emanated the delicious aroma of stew. "I hope you like stew," David said, slightly embarrassed. "It smells amazing," Ethan replied with sincerity. "Better than any fancy meal I've ever had." During dinner, Ethan listened intently as Olivia animatedly shared stories about her school day, while David spoke about his job. It dawned on Ethan that, despite their modest means, this home radiated an unmistakable sense of warmth and love. After dinner, as Olivia settled in to do her homework, Ethan joined David in the small backyard with a couple of cups of coffee. "David," Ethan began cautiously, summoning his courage. "I've been thinking, I'd like to offer some financial support." David stiffened slightly. "That's really not necessary. We're doing just fine," he replied. Ethan quickly reassured him. "I understand. I don't want to overstep or make you uncomfortable. It's just that I have more resources than I can possibly use, and I'd like to put them to good use. Maybe for Olivia's education. This doesn't have to define our relationship." David sighed, his posture relaxing slightly. "I appreciate the offer, Ethan. But I want to keep things simple between us. Money complicates things. I've seen it happen before." "I get it," Ethan nodded. "I'm sorry if I overstepped. I just want to help where I can. Being a part of your life, you are what truly matters." Ethan's voice wavered slightly. "Thank you, David. That means so much to me." They sat in silence for a while. A soft melody from Olivia's humming filled the air as she worked on her homework. Eventually, David spoke up. "If you really want to help with something, there's one thing," he said, glancing at Ethan. "Our local community center is struggling. They need volunteers and possibly some donations for their programs." Ethan's face lit up with a smile. "I'd be happy to help with that. How about we go there tomorrow and see exactly what they need?" David's smile mirrored his brother's. "Sounds great. As Ethan left that evening, he felt a shift in his relationship with David and Olivia, as well as within himself. He felt a renewed sense of purpose that extended beyond his usual financial endeavors. "I'll be back tomorrow," he promised, hugging both Olivia and David. "There's a community center that needs support." On his way back to his mansion, Ethan realized that it no longer felt like home. The true home for him was the small, joyful house of his family. And he was determined to be there for them in every way possible. With a future that once seemed bleak and empty now overflowing with potential, Ethan couldn't help but smile to himself, eagerly anticipating the next day. The next morning arrived clear and bright, a sign of new beginnings. Ethan woke up early, full of excitement for the unusual day ahead. He arrived at David's just as Olivia was getting on the school bus. After a quick, heartfelt hug from her, he turned to David. "Good morning. Ready to check out the community center?" "Of course," David replied enthusiastically. "I actually took a look last night," David continued. "The center has been struggling for a while now." "That's too bad," Ethan said. "It used to be such a vibrant part of the community. Now, it's barely getting by, just keeping the lights on." The community center, an old but charming building in the heart of the neighborhood, showed clear signs of neglect with its peeling paint and dirty windows. Yet Ethan could see its hidden potential. They were greeted by Linda, the center's director, a woman with a warm smile but tired eyes. "David, it's great to see you," she said warmly. She then turned to Ethan with curiosity. "And Ethan, I hear you're interested in supporting the center?" Linda's expression brightened at the mention of help. "That's truly wonderful. We really need help." As they toured the facility, Ethan noted the critical needs. The roof repairs, outdated electrical system, and worn-out equipment. "What programs are you currently offering?" Ethan asked. Linda sighed. "We used to offer a variety of programs. Art workshops, tutoring sessions, even a book club for seniors. But due to funding cuts, we're barely keeping the after-school program running," she added. Ethan thought for a moment. "How about computer courses or a fitness center for the community?" Linda and David exchanged looks, their faces reflecting cautious optimism. "That would be incredible," Linda said. "But how?" Ethan smiled, his eyes scanning the transformed building. "I have connections willing to support a meaningful corporate social responsibility initiative. I'm also prepared to make a significant personal contribution. But beyond just the financial side, I want to take on responsibility and help organize volunteer efforts." David, now filled with renewed admiration, looked at his brother with pride. "I'm on board too. I can help with the technical repairs. And I'm sure many people in our community would love to pitch in," he added. Linda, visibly moved, was on the verge of tears. "I'm speechless. This could really change everything for us," Ethan said, extending his hand. "Let's get to work." The days and weeks that followed were filled with hustle and bustle. While David organized the volunteer group for various repairs, Ethan found himself enjoying the hands-on work. Painting, carpentry, even gardening, alongside the locals. In the afternoons, he worked closely with Linda and the volunteer team to develop new programs and plan their rollout. Olivia frequently visited the center, eagerly helping wherever she could. Ethan was proud to see his niece sorting books for the new library and tutoring younger kids. One relaxed Saturday, as they took a break from painting the classrooms, David shared his thoughts with his brother. "I never imagined I'd see you like this," he said. Flustered, Ethan asked, "Like how?" "Happy," David replied simply. "Truly happy." Ethan paused, reflecting on his brother's observation. "You know, you're right," he admitted after a moment. "It's been years since I've felt this fulfilled." "This feels right," Ethan added quietly. David placed a supportive hand on his brother's shoulder. "I'm proud of you, Ethan. You've really changed." Ethan's throat tightened with emotion. "Thank you, David. I couldn't have done this without you, Ethan. You both taught me what really matters." The brothers shared a quiet moment together, surrounded by the cheerful sounds and diligent efforts of those working around them. After months of unwavering dedication, the day for the community center's grand opening finally arrived. Once run down, the building now gleamed with fresh paint and sparkling windows. Bright banners displayed the variety of new programs, and an excited crowd gathered for the ceremony. Ethan and David stood alongside Linda and Ethan, all wearing community center t-shirts, blending into the celebration with everyone else. As Linda delivered her heartfelt speech of thanks, Ethan observed the lively crowd. He saw families mingling, seniors engaging in animated discussions, and children playing with enthusiasm. The hope in people's eyes and the newfound energy in the neighborhood were palpable. When it was his turn, Ethan approached the microphone with a sense of humility and belonging. "I stand before you not as a benefactor or savior," he began. "What we've achieved here is something we all did together, through the care we share with one another." He paused, reflecting. "This journey has taught me more than I could ever pass on to others. It has redefined my understanding of true wealth, not something tied to a bank account." His gaze shifted to the crowd. "You all have become my extended family. Thank you for welcoming me and allowing me to be part of something truly transformative." As the applause filled the air, Ethan felt a deep sense of fulfillment, a joy he had never known before. He realized this event marked the beginning of a new chapter in his life, one focused on purpose. In the months that followed, Ethan's involvement in the community deepened. Under the guidance of his foundation, new community centers were opened, and educational programs and job training initiatives were developed, all aimed at supporting underserved neighborhoods. David took on the role of operations director for the foundation, using his skills and local connections to manage the projects effectively. Olivia, inspired by the tangible impact her father and uncle had made, earned a degree in social work. After graduating, she joined the foundation, bringing with her youthful enthusiasm and fresh ideas. One day, while observing the construction of a new center in another part of the city, David looked at Ethan with a mix of admiration and surprise. "You know," he said, "I never thought I'd say this, but it seems like you've truly found your calling." Ethan smiled, watching the volunteers bustling around them. "A year ago, I wouldn't have believed it either. It's amazing how life can surprise us." David chuckled, teasing, "By the way, I've noticed how much time you've been spending with Linda lately." Ethan's cheeks reddened slightly. His relationship with Linda had indeed deepened, thanks to their shared commitment to improving the community and the efforts they put into their daily work. "We really are working on a lot of projects together," Ethan replied, trying to appear casual. David laughed. "Come on, bro, I know you. There's definitely something more going on here, right?" The playful teasing between the brothers highlighted the profound changes in Ethan's life, changes that went beyond professional achievements and reached into his personal relationships, enriching his journey in ways he never anticipated. Ethan exhaled softly, a shy smile spreading across his face. "It may not be like any relationship I've had before," he admitted. "Linda is amazing. Her empathy, her strength, she's an inspiration to me every single day." David smiled warmly at his brother. "I'm glad to hear that," he said, confidently resting his hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You deserve that happiness." As the daylight faded over the horizon, Ethan reflected on the deep transformations in his life. He had gone from a lonely, self-centered leader to a person driven by purpose, surrounded by the love of family and friends, and on the brink of deep, meaningful relationships. "You know," Ethan turned to his brother with a renewed sense of joy. "I think I'm really happy. Happier than I've been in years." Their smiles mirrored each other, strengthening the bond that only grew deeper over time. Together, they weren't just building community centers, they were laying the foundation for hope and transformative change. The idea of home had changed for Ethan. He now realized that his life, once measured by wealth and prestige, was now flourishing with much richer values, purpose, love, and the fulfillment that came from making a true impact on others' lives. The future, once bleak and barren, now brimmed with exciting possibilities, and Ethan was eager to see what adventures awaited him next. 2 decades had passed since that transformative Sunday when a young woman changed Ethan Miller's path. Now, at 65, he sat on the porch of his modest, welcoming home in the neighborhood where his new life had begun. Next to him sat Linda, his partner for 20 years. Their fingers intertwined, they watched the sunset together. Although time had left its marks on them, the same passion and affection that initially brought them together still sparkled in their eyes. "What are you thinking about, my love?" Linda asked, noticing the thoughtful expression on Ethan's face. He smiled warmly and gently squeezed her hand. "I'm just reflecting on how much has changed, how incredibly lucky I am." At that moment, the sound of children's laughter filled the air. Ethan and Linda turned to see their 7-year-old granddaughter, Sophia, playing with other local children in the garden. Sophia, Olivia's daughter, who now ran the foundation Ethan and Linda had started many years ago, grew up surrounded by the principles of kindness and service instilled by her parents and uncle. Olivia had found love with Peter, a teacher she met at one of the community centers. David, now with gray hair but his smile as warm as ever, stepped out onto the porch with a tray of lemonade. "Kids," he called out. "Come over here." The children rushed over, laughing and thanking him as they grabbed their glasses. Sophia, her cheeks flushed from play, walked up to the porch. "Grandpa," she began, looking up at Ethan with wide, curious eyes. "Can you tell the story again about how you met Aunt Olivia?" Ethan chuckled, lifting his granddaughter onto his lap. "Again? Haven't you heard that story 1,000 times already?" "But it's my favorite," Sophia pleaded. Glancing at Linda and David, who smiled encouragingly, Ethan began recounting the key moment that changed his life, the story of the young woman who recognized him on the street and led him back to his roots. As he told the tale, Ethan marveled at the poetic circle of life. Here he was, telling his granddaughter, about a young woman, about the same age as Sophia was now, whose actions set the course for their present happiness. "And so, dear Sophia," Ethan finished, "she taught me that true wealth isn't in money or possessions, but in the love of those around us and the impact we can have on their lives." Sophia gave him a tight hug. "I love you, Grandpa. I want to be just like you and Grandma Linda when I grow up and help others." Feeling proud, Ethan replied, "And you will, my dear. You have a big heart, just like your mom." At that moment, Olivia and Peter entered, offering warm hugs. Now a woman in her prime, still radiating the youthful smile of her earlier years, Olivia sat down beside her uncle. "Here we go again with the stories, Uncle Ethan," she teased with a smile. "Your daughter never gets tired of hearing them." Ethan laughed. "She reminds me of someone I met a long time ago." Squeezing her uncle's hand, Olivia's eyes shone with gratitude. "I'll never stop being thankful for everything you've done for us, for our community," she said. Ethan humbly shook his head. "No, Olivia, it's I who should thank you. You and your father paved the way for a truly fulfilled life." As the family continued their evening, filled with laughter, stories, and memories, Ethan reflected on his remarkable journey. From a lonely, self-centered man to the beloved patriarch of his family and the pillar of a thriving community. The community centers, which had started as Ethan's personal project for redemption, spread throughout the city, touching countless lives. Now under Olivia's leadership, with Pietro's help, the foundation expanded its reach, launching financial literacy programs, mobile health clinics, and sustainable energy initiatives, constantly seeking innovative ways to improve the community's well-being. Although David had officially retired, he still frequently visited the centers, where his knowledge and experience were highly valued. His bond with Ethan had become an unbreakable connection, strengthened by years of friendship. Linda, ever the reliable partner, played a crucial role throughout their journey. Her unwavering support had been a pillar for Ethan during tough times and a source of joy during brighter days. As the evening sky blazed with streaks of gold and pink, Ethan surveyed the surroundings, filled with a deep sense of peace and gratitude. His existence, once devoid of meaning, now overflowed with purpose, enriched by the impact he had made on the world. "Are you okay, my love?" Linda asked, noticing the thoughtful expression on Ethan's face. He replied with a smile, tears of joy sparkling in his eyes. "More than okay, my love. I feel completely at peace." And then, as if to emphasize his words, a gentle breeze swept through the garden, mixing the scent of flowers with the sound of children's laughter. Ethan closed his eyes, soaking in the moment. He reflected on who he had once been, the long journey he had traveled, and the many lives they had touched along the way. He thought of little Olivia, whose simple question had started it all, and now Sophia, who was continuing the tradition of love and service. Ethan was certain that he had discovered the essence of true wealth. It was not the balance in his bank account, the titles, or the influence he once held. True wealth was here, in this moment, found in the love of his family, the gratitude of his community, and the satisfaction of a life well lived. Ethan Miller, once a lonely millionaire, had discovered treasures far beyond material riches. He had embraced love, a purposeful life, and the happiness that came from generosity. On this journey, he had also discovered the true wealth of the soul. As the darkness gently enveloped the neighborhood, the Miller family remained on the porch, exchanging stories, laughter, and love. Surrounded by the warmth of his family and the legacy of his efforts, Ethan was certain that he had lived a truly successful life. This was his beautiful final act, but also a new beginning, as the love and empathy they had nurtured would continue to bloom, impacting lives and changing the world long after they were gone. And so ended the story of Ethan Miller, the millionaire who discovered true wealth. However, his legacy, marked by his transformation and the love he spread, would live on in the hearts of all those he touched. I hope you enjoyed today's story. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Be sure to hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next video.